consciousness is like I said, very dear to my heart, and I see plant consciousness as an extension of the biointelligence of nature. So so there's a and because of our very symbiotic relationship with plants and we're very closely related to plants, it's really the easiest access to of all the aspects of nature, all the elements of nature. It's really the easiest one to connect with because of our relationship and because of our long time association and symbiosis with plants. So that's what we're going to focus on here for a little bit, is the symbiotic relationship, and it's quite incredible when you really understand how this all has happened and how we relate to the plants and why. And it's pretty amazing. So I want to share some of that with you. So it all began a long time ago. So this is the other thing to remember. Plants have been here for a very long time. So they have the long view, and they've been through a lot of changes on this planet and have managed to survive, and not only survive but thrive. So plants make up, and when we're talking plants, trees, sea vegetables as well, that's in this category too, are represent 99% of all living organisms on this planet. Now, that's a lot. And they have been here. I mean, it all started about 3 billion years ago. That's a really billion, not million. So that's a long time ago. And that's kind of when it began. And it started with bacteria, which at that time was considered a plant. And now bacteria has its own classification. So they've separated it out from plants, but bacteria is still very, very much related, let's put it that way. So it began with bacteria 3 billion years ago. And then about 2.3 billion years ago is when the photosynthetic process was actually pretty well established by then. So and the mix in the biosphere is about the same proportions now that it was then. Now, of course, there's been a few blips along the way and some changes in atmosphere, but basically it always returns to a homeostasis of about the same mix of oxygen, carbon dioxide, nitrogen that we have today. And so that's pretty significant as well. The other thing that's super important to know is that, and I just recently, this past week, did some research on this, is that the plants continue to keep a balance in our biosphere, to continue all these millennia, like millions of years. Plants and trees have maintained this oxygen-rich biosphere so that life can thrive. And now, when we're finding that we're in this situation here on the planet, which is what this summit is all about, we're in a very there's a lot of carbon dioxide is what's happening. And so what the plants are doing, and it's like, let's see, it's up to like 30%. They have increased their uptake of carbon dioxide by 30% to keep things relatively in balance. So there's this there's this concern in the biological, in the scientific realm, that with people who are really looking at temperature and all that kind of thing, there's a concern that plants are going to reach their capacity for their uptake of carbon dioxide. So that's yet to be seen. But right now, they are continuing to really be the ones they're a huge carbon sink, and it's so anyway, just to say, they continue to bring homeostasis to this planet. So, continuing on, about 1.8 billion years ago, what a single algal line emerged, and the population thrived. And so, what happened with this algal line was algae. When I say algae, is that they began to communicate with each other and organize themselves, and to encode within their reproduction, that the ability to grow, the ability to reproduce, the ability to inherit, and to mutate or adapt. That was 1.8 billion years ago. That was all in place. So these plants, and they were in water at that time. They were water plants. So plants moved on to Earth, that moved onto land about 400 to 450 million years ago. So moving along, we're now moving. The plants are now moving to land. And like I said before, they make up 99% of all living organisms on the planet. So that means they're successful. They know what they're doing. They know how to adapt. They know how to thrive. They know how to keep the biosphere in a place that's oxygen rich for all life to live, plant life, animal life, the water, all of it. So, so now just to give you a little comparison, human history, human evolution, the first humanoid appeared about 15 million years ago. Humanoid, not human. And then the first human appeared about 2.5 million years ago. The first Homo sapien appeared about 500,000 years ago. And the first Homo sapien, which is our species, was about 200,000 years ago. So just to give you a little, kind of perspective here, is that our species has been around for about 200,000 years. Plants and trees and sea vegetables have been around for, okay, if we're going to look at land-based plants, for twice as long. And they originated millions of years before we did. So we're kind of new. We're the new kid on the block here. And plants are like our ancient ancestors. So this amazing symbiosis between humans and plants is just so fascinating, because all of our oxygen comes from plants and trees and sea vegetables, all of it. So we wouldn't have our breath if it wasn't for plants. All of our food comes from plants. Even if you eat an animal, that animal ate a plant at some point, so it all originated with plants. All of our tissue is because of plants. We don't make tissue from sunlight. Plants do that. And then we eat the plants, and then we make our tissue. So basic physical existence is, we wouldn't be here if it wasn't for plants. We're super symbiotically related. And our oxygen, our breath, this is another symbiotic relationship, is that we share it with plants. So we breathe in their out breath of oxygen. We breathe it in. We breathe out carbon dioxide that they breathe in. So there's this constant cycle of breath all the time that you don't even have to think about. It's just a part of your makeup. It's who you are, part of who you are. And it's all because of plants. So this amazing plant consciousness is just, so that's the physical. Then we have the cognitive, so thinking, our high, our brain function and all that. And because they were able to communicate with each other and organize themselves, and as we mentioned earlier, grow and reproduce and inherit and mutate, and they developed a level of self-awareness which is what consciousness is. Consciousness is when you become aware of yourself. They became aware of themselves in order to do all these functions, to have all these functions. And there's a biologist, a guy named Edmund Sinnoh, Sinnot, and he has a book called Cell and Psyche. And so there's this hypothesis that the rise of higher mind, or higher types of psychological behavior that culminates in mind, is a result of plants initiating self-awareness over 2 billion years ago. Now, when you really like let that one go in, it's like, what? Really? And yet there's these plants they developed like very sophisticated and complicated communication abilities, and which included being able to compute and make decisions about their environment, they had these intricate signaling systems amongst themselves. And it wasn't even like the same species necessarily. There would be signaling between different species, and they would forage and compete for resources. And you're like, well, wait a minute, they can't move. Yes, they can. They just don't move as fast as we do. Which, by the way, a few years back, one of the definitions of intelligence was how fast you could move. That's all changed now. They've eliminated that as part of the definition of intelligence, realizing that nature intelligence, biointelligence, a lot of things don't move. Trees don't move. However, trees are very connected in with the mycelium, which is another network of communication. So that's another piece of it here. That's a network of communication that's happening all the time. It's like they refer to the mycelium now as the internet of the earth. And so big communication. And they have very large protein molecules. And the protein molecules are the ones that store the data, and all the information that comes in, it's stored in protein molecules. And their protein molecules are much larger than ours. So they have a greater capacity to store the data. And then from that, communication can take place. And they remember all of this to set a future intentions of intelligent choice. Now, that sounds like a brain, so-called brain to me, although technically speaking, it's not a brain like our brain is, but it doesn't mean that it doesn't function like a brain would function. So anyway, this is like, and this all was happening before we were even a little glimmer in their eye. And so it's amazing to me. Then there's the emotional symbiosis, how we're connected to them on an emotional level. And there's a term that's been coined by Edward Wilson, who he's an etymologist, he's a bug guy, and the term is called biophilia, which basically means love of life systems or love of nature. I extend that love of nature, I extend that to love of plants. So this whole notion of biophilia is that because of our similarity to plants and our symbiotic relationship and our long time association, because evolution, we have been, riding along the same evolutionary wave as plants. And so because of that, we have this, actually, they're in the scientific world right now, they're hunting for the gene in our genetic makeup that has to do with biophilia, because there's this hypothesis that um, that because of this long time association, symbiotic relationship, which engenders biophilia, there's a need. It's not a want. It's not a like, oh, wouldn't it be nice to be close to nature? Oh, I want to do that. It's you need to be in close proximity to nature, that which gives you your life. Close proximity to plants, that which gives you your life. And that when we separate from that, which is a big part of what I feel is going on right now, is that the mess we have on the planet right now, I believe, is because of our separation from nature. And that we really need to get back to nature. So, I mean, I know that some people live in cities, and I know it's not quite as easy to be in close proximity to nature in a city, although these days, most cities have green space. Or if they don't, now they're working towards having green space, because finally people are realizing that, oh, it's a good idea to have a few trees around, and so that's beginning to happen. Okay, so what happens here with biophilia is it really engenders like a type of bond that occurs, um, that's really necessary for a healthy Gaiecology meaning your relationship with a living earth. And so this bonding is it's really necessary. It's needed. We need to bond with that which gives us our life. And from that, what happens, the next occurrence that happens, another way we're hardwired, is a hormone called oxytocin. And oxytocin is the bonding hormone. And it's, most of the work with oxytocin is around the mother-child relationship, because that's your initial bonding is usually with mother and child. But oxytocin gets released in those like wow moments. It's like, wow, look at that sunset. Wow, look at that red tree, which is what I've been doing for the last 2 weeks. Like some of these trees are so red this year. It's like, what? Anyway, it's those moments. It's the peak moments. It's the moments when, generally speaking, those peak moments are birth, death, orgasm, but a lot of them happen in nature. It's like so many wow moments happen in nature. And the oxytocin gets released from your heart and your hypothalamus, goes through the bloodstream, cell receptors uptake it, and then bonding occurs, meaning that's how you make the connection. It's how we're hardwired to make the connection with ourselves, with each other, with other animals, with the landscape, with the land, with plants, with trees, with water, all of it. It's how we connect. And oxytocin sets into place what's called the restorative response, just like it sounds, restoration, which is part of what we're talking about in this summit too, is restoration, regeneration. That's what oxytocin does. And one of the ways that oxytocin occurs for us is through biophilia. And so it engenders this deep connection and love. It's really comes down to like this really deep love. It's like being with what you love, what nurtures you, and so it helps you really come into alignment with your true self, your true essential nature. And it's not only our love for nature or our love for the plants, but it's their love for us. Which reminds me that the Organization of Nature Evolutionaries, who I'm representing today, we just had a webinar last Sunday with Tate Walker, and she's a Native woman who's she's a poet. She's amazing. She just does all kinds of wonderful things. It was a great webinar, and she said there's this whole thing hashtag land back to land, or whatever that is, back to land, whatever that is. Anyway, she said something like, I want the land to want me back. And I was like, oh, yeah. And so it was such a beautiful way for her to put that. And that's because this is a two-way street here, because we're talking about through this amazing symbiosis that we experience with the natural world, and i.e. the easiest one is the plants and trees. um, we it's reciprocal. It's a back and forth, and we're evolving into a co-creative partnership where together we create hopefully a paradigm in which we um, you know health and well-being, and we stop destroying each other and the planet and the plants and the trees. So okay, let's come back to reel it back in and come back to so bonding, having wow moments. So anytime that you can place yourself in a situation, I really like the early morning hours. I wake up pretty early, and I love the sunrise time, and especially during the summer. We sit out, my husband and I, we sit out on our porch, and it faces east, and we're real quiet. We don't talk to each other. It's our quiet time. But to sit and watch that, and then watch it throughout the seasons, because it's coming up way in the south now, and at summer solstice, it comes up way, 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 way much further over, and we mark where it comes up by the tree line, by where the trees that it's coming above, so we can see how much anyway. So we watch the movement of the sun, we watch the sunrise, we make a little prayer about thank you very much for shining one more day. Thank you so much for the beauty of that, and for the gift that you give, the gift of life that you give. So the sun is involved here too, which is the element of fire, of course. So we've got our elements within nature of fire and water and earth and air, and then ether, the great mystery, the great magic, that's all that space in between everything that carries that magic. So anyway, those wow moments. So being with the sunrise is a wow moment. And then you receive that first breath. So there's this whole Buddhist practice where they stand and to greet the sun. And as the sun rises, the heat of the sun pushes the air in front of it. And they call that the first breath. So it's the first breath of the day. And you take that just as that sun is coming up, and you just can see that little outline of it rising, and that first heat, really it's the heat that pushes the air, comes, and you take that breath in, and you give thanks to the plants and the trees for the oxygen, and to the sun for moving it towards you as the first breath of the day. So it's just a beautiful morning, simple practice to do in the morning. So for those of you who are going to ask, like, well, okay, how can we do this? That's one way. That's one way, is to be there in the morning with that first breath, giving gratitude to the sun and to the plants and trees for your breath, for your life. So anyway, yes, so this reciprocity, we're in this two-way street with the plants and the trees, with all of nature, of course, but especially with the plants and trees. So so we're really affected by our genetically inherited love for the natural world, for the plants, and we're healed by their love for us. So it's just this lovely bonding that happens. So then there is spiritual symbiosis, and this is the one that I feel like we're really present with right now. So here's the other thing to understand, is that plants have always preceded their animal counterparts in evolution. It's just the way it is. So for example, angiosperms, which are flowering plants with internal reproductive organs, evolved before mammals with internal reproductive organs because they had to. Mammals needed something to eat. And so these plants evolved first. And it's that way all along. So like evergreens with external reproductive organs, the reptiles came after that. So just their animal counterparts were always preceded by plants. So if we were to say that our evolution right now is of a spiritual nature, and when I use the word spirit, I'm defining it as the vital principle held to give life. That's how I'm defining spirit. And so it's really about consciousness. Evolving on a spiritual level is about raising our consciousness to a point at which we literally stop harming ourselves and harming the planet and harming the water and harming the soil and harming the trees and harming the earth and all of its beings. So that's, to me, this spiritual evolution that we're in right now is that's what we need to do. And this kind of new thought has come, this new concept has come recently through the work of Charles Eisenstein. Maybe some of you know who he is. If you don't, you should really check him out. Charles Eisenstein. He's written, I just finished reading his book called Climate. And, you would think, oh gosh, it's going to be like all like doomsday and all that. And actually, I mean, he went into all of it. He went into both viewpoints and all of that and in depth. And but then he connects in like all the other aspects that go along with it. I mean, it's not just the climate or the atmosphere or the ecology. It's everything else that it affects, which is basically all of life. And he ties it all together. But by the end, you're like feeling hopeful. You're like, oh, it's going to be okay. And that's the beauty of his books, is that he just always brings it around to like, you don't feel like, oh my God, this is awful. You actually feel like, wow, what an exciting time to be alive. So one of his concepts is that that the world we know is possible. And he wrote one of his books is called something like, it's a big long title, something like the most beautiful world our hearts know is possible. Something like that. That's the title, something like that. Anyway, the idea is that world already exists. The world we know is possible, that our hearts know is possible. That world of, I mean, I'm pushing for peace on earth. So that space, that it already exists. It's just that human consciousness hasn't caught up with it yet. And I'm like, okay, so that means we just need to jump it up a few notches for us to arrive at the space that already exists. So I feel really good about that because I know that the plants can help us get there. Because in this spiritual symbiosis with plants and trees, I've been, the plants are just preceding us. One more time in our evolution, they're preceding us. And so if you look at like, well, the 60s for sure, maybe even the 50s, there was this huge explosion in paying attention to plants that were open the doors of perception, so to speak. And so a lot of people became very interested at that point in plants at that level, which really kind of, blew the doors off of everything for many people. And then there's been flower essences. It used to be the only flower essences you could get were the Bach essences, or Bach. If you were in Europe, you would pronounce his name Bach, Edward Bach, and which have absolutely no chemical constituents of the plant in them. It's just the vibratory resonance of the plant is flower essence. Now There's tons of flower essence companies out there. A lot of people are learning how to make their own essences. So there's been a huge explosion in that, and essences tend to be more on the emotional, psychological, sometimes spiritual level of what, the way in which they work. And then there's plant spirit healing, which is what I do, and which is really you get to the point in your relationship with plants where you don't need to ingest them at all because um, they have really become part of you because you've built your relationship into a co-creative partnership where they actually live within you, and um and 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 you can call upon them, and they have plants have lots and lots of healing gifts. They have physical ones, they have healing gifts for all levels: physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual. And it's not just us. It is us, but it's more than that. It's also the planet. It's also the animals. It's also, it's also the biosphere. They have so many healing gifts. And they they really work with us, and this is part of the spiritual symbiosis, is working with us on the level at which those gifts, we can receive them within us. I kind of see it like a house where there's all these rooms in the house, and they've got their own little room with a little door, close their bedroom door or whatever. And but in this bedroom is dandelion, and in this bedroom is St. John's wort, and this bedroom is white pine, and in this bedroom is rose. And so when you want to be working with one of those plants and their healing gifts, it's kind of like you go, like, kind of knock on the door, invite that plant out of their room into your full house, into the big house of you. And then you get out of the way. You kind of take yourself and put it over here, and you become the hollow bone. I call it the hollow bone, and the plant spirit works through you. Some people would call that channeling, maybe. Okay, but channeling kind of connotates something a little different. So I prefer to refer to it as the hollow bone, is just the plant works through you. So the plants do the work. You are the facilitator. You're the one that calls them up. And you also might be the one that identifies what kind of work needs to be done, but the plant does the work. And it's just this incredibly beautiful, um, I'm going to call it a marriage. That's what it's like. It's like you've evolved with them to the point where you're co-creative partnerships. So together, that's what co is. Together, you're creating health, well-being, balance, thriving on this planet. So, um, so that's what plant spirit healing is all about. So, and the other piece about this whole evolutionary thing is that plants are evolving too. It's not just us, even though they're preceding us in our spiritual evolution. So they're really amazing guides for us during this time to evolve our spirituality, raising of consciousness to the point at which we are able to shift the paradigm to create the world we know is possible. To come in and standing in the center of our beings, in our true essential nature, not the facades, but who we truly are, and being here as kin. And we're actually a part of nature. We just kind of have fallen into this deep amnesia about that. We've forgotten what we're doing here in this work with the plants and the trees and with nature, and the nature spirits are a part of this too. I call it the Trinity of we've got plants and trees, we've got animals also, which means us humans, and then we've got the nature spirits, and we work together. We all work together to make it happen. Anyway, um, So so they're evolving as well, and they really want us to succeed. So so there's this really lovely relationship going on here. So the next thing that's happening, and I might have, some of you who have done work with me before, you might have heard me talk about this before, is plant initiations. And plant initiations are when we take one plant and we work with it for, I like to do 3 days. Some people only do two. Some people do a whole thing they call dieting, which means they might diet the plant over a month. So, but I don't like to use the word dieting because dieting connotates, especially here in the US, like if you're everybody's on a diet basically of some kind, and sometimes it's good and sometimes it's like, ugh. So, it also, and so there's that connotation, and then there's the connotation that you only diet psychotropics, ones that alter the chemistry and the brain waves and all that, which is not true. You can diet. So anyway, during these plant initiations, we make what's called an elixir, and it's different parts of the plant that you mix together. You stir it like the biodynamic stirring, where you stir in one direction and you stir in the other direction, so it brings in the cosmic forces and the earth energies and the cosmic forces, and that brings it into it. And every step of the way in harvesting of the plant, when you harvest it, and preparations, making the preparations, and then working with it during the 3-day period, every step of the way, you're treating these plants like sacred beings and the elder. They are the elder. So in initiations, in tribal cultures mostly, but there's been some other types of initiations in different cultures and societies. It was about usually it was about young people coming of age and being initiated into the tribe. So that meant that you were initiated into the collective. And so many of the elders are gone now. And so we don't have a lot of initiations going on for young people, which means that we are a culture full of uninitiated humans that don't know how to live within the collective, which we are witnessing on the planet right now. We are witnessing we can't even friggin' talk to each other in some arenas, as you well know. So we don't know how to do it because we were never initiated. So now the plants and trees are stepping it up and taking on the role of the elder to initiate us into what it means to be truly human, living sanely within the collective. So that's pretty amazing. And so we're doing these initiations, and we're spending 3 days, and we're ingesting the elixir. So this has to be an ingestible plant. If it's not an ingestible plant, you can always make an essence out of it because there's no chemical constituents in the essence. And you could ingest that. But otherwise, it's usually a plant that's you can ingest. And you do that. You take, a couple ounces. We do 2 ounces 8 times, spread over 3 days. And then we do all kinds of things with the plant. Then we journey with the plant, we sit with the plant, we pray with the plant, we do green breath with the plant, we do dismemberment journey, we do fire circle with the plant, it goes on and on. We embody the plant, we make masks, and we embody, so we become the plant. And then we have a council. It's like a council of all beings, only it's a council of whatever. It's council of dandelions, or council of St. John's worts, or council of mugworts. And we do that around the fire at night in our ceremonial clothing with our masks on, speaking in council as the plant. So we embody the plant. It is so amazing. It's so powerful. So anyway, these initiations, it like takes your relationship with these plants, and man, it's a deep dive, and it is really phenomenal. And I would say for me that my co-creative partnership evolves to these plants become your beloveds. I'm talking, whew, man, and and they really are here to support you and give you, help you to be all you possibly can be, living according to your true essential nature, operating sanely within the collective. So that's a part of the spiritual symbiosis with the plants. And the beauty with plants and trees is it's like the old Buddhist saying, when the student's ready, the teacher appears. That's why plants are. When you're ready, they hand you something else. So I'm kind of like, wonder what the next thing is. I'm kind of getting really excited. But from these initiations, there's all kinds of incredible stuff happening. So like, well, we did a couple years of online initiations, and I was kind of like, what? We can't do this online. And that first year, 2020, I guess it was, we were going to do dandelion here at my place. And I was like, I go out and I was like, oh, dandelion, I'm so sorry. I can't have people here right now. And so we're going to have to cancel the initiation. I'm so sorry. Going to have to cancel the initiation. And by the way, the plants tell me who's going to be the elder that year, who's going to play that role of the elder. They're like, yoo-hoo, me. They tell me I don't go out and choose the plant. The plant chooses me. So I go to tell dandelion this and dandelion. I call dandelion the kick butt plant. Man, dandelion is like, man, it's really a strong plant. And I go out to tell dandelion this, and dandelion's like, what do you mean? I'm not on lockdown. And I went, good point. So dandelion's like, you'll figure this out, and you're going to do it online, and you'll figure it out. And I was like, okay. And at that point in time, I mean, I've done some Zoom things, but I'm not a techie person at all. So I got really nervous about the tech part of it. And then I found somebody who wanted to do the initiation who could also do the tech. So I was like, oh, good, that works. So we actually did it, and it actually worked. And it was kind of amazing how well it worked. So anyway, so that happened. And then this year we met in person again for the first time after a few years. And this year, Ladies Mail was the one who wanted to step up to the plate. And I was kind of like, oh, Ladies Mail, that's interesting, because it doesn't grow wild here. It's a cultivated plant here anyway. And I was kind of like, that's interesting. But of course, it started to make sense, because Ladies Mail is Alchemilla. That's her Latin name. And so she's the alchemist. So Alchemilla is all about turning it from the base to the gold. And she's also a very feminine plant. Her planetary correspondence is Venus, very feminine. So she's a lot about the feminine rising. And when I use the word feminine, I don't mean female, male. I mean feminine energy, what that is. And so I was like, oh, well, of course, this makes sense. Female rising, feminine rising, and the alchemist, changing it into gold. So what came from that was this understanding about the gold frequency, which is this, I was going to use the word new. I'm not sure there's anything new under the sun, but maybe. But I'll say this frequency that the planet's being flooded with right now is called the gold frequency. And, we're moving through a photon belt in the galaxy. So there's a lot of light coming in right now. And some of it is gold. And so the gold frequency. And so the gold frequency just continues to emerge. So I was out in the woods the other day, and like I said, we're in the phase now of autumn where everything has turned gold. It's, even moved away from yellow, and it's become golden. And when the light shines through it, when you're in the forest and there's all these trees that are gold and the light shines through it, it's like, oh my gosh, it's like, I feel like I'm just surrounded in this golden glow. And I was like, oh, here's the gold frequency again. And the gold frequency is at that level of what we were talking about earlier, about raising your consciousness to the level of knowing and being, let's see, how do I say this? Knowing how to engage in the world that we know is possible. That one that Charles Eisenstein talks about. So what's happening here is that these magnificent beings, vastly intelligent beings, way more intelligent than we are, I have to say. I know you've been taught that you're the crown of creation, but guess what? There's vast intelligence in all of nature, and especially the plants and trees. And because of our symbiotic relationship, they're the primary ones that are really helping us to raise our consciousness to that next level, to the gold frequency level. So, so really part of our work right now is to wake up and to remember. So it's not like it's not here, because it is. I mean, we're a part of nature. We came in as a part of nature. We're an animal. We're a part of nature. But somewhere we kind of fell off the cart, and we forgot. We forgot that we're a part of nature. And we've gone into this kind of massive amnesia of forgetfulness. But that's all it is. That's all it is we've just forgotten. And so we need to remember. So the plants are helping us in this remembering process by all these different ways that I've been talking about, by our symbiotic relations. They have the ability to do this. They've been doing it for eons. And so here we are at this time on the planet when it is, it's time. It's time. The time has come. And so for us to sit back and say, oh, well, whatever, or the kind of words that I hear sometimes with, in working with plants and plant communication and all that kind of stuff. And yes, they speak a different language than we do. We do these words, which plants don't do these words. They might show up as words in your head, but that's a translation. That's really a translation of their level of communication, which is light and sound and vibratory resonance. And so, so basically, they are really helping us in this remembering process right now, which is so crucial that we do this. And so, for example, in this summit, there's lots of talk about regeneration and restoration and kind of bringing things back to the balance point, and what are the things that we need to do. And a lot of it is like, these are action things that we got to take action. However, if we go to the plants and we ask them with genuinely from our hearts, and this is kind of a key thing that I have found in working with plants. If we absolutely trust with all of our hearts, without a shadow of a doubt, that these plants can guide us and inform us in this raising of consciousness, so that we know how to move into restoration, and we know how best to continue, to move on with regenerative agriculture, for an example, so that we know how to clean up the water, so that we know how to deal with plastic, big one. I mean, there's so many things right now that we really need to take action on. And how are we gonna raise our consciousness to the level to understand and know how to do that? How's that gonna happen? Somebody's gonna have a great idea. Where'd that great idea come from? That's what I want to ask. Because these plants have been stepping it up for millions of years. They know how to be here on this planet in a successful way. They're predominant, and they've been here for millions and millions and millions of years, and they will continue to be here for millions and millions of years. I'm not convinced that we will at this point. Maybe if we get it together right now, if we reunite, reunite to regenerate, to have repair. That's what this summit's all about. So that's what I would encourage you to do, is pay attention to the plants, because they're helping us in this evolution. They're the ones that are going to give us the inspiration. They're the ones that are going to give us the ideas. They're the ones that are going to be like, that aha moment. The aha moment when we bonded with them and we're having the aha moment. And then amidst the like, oh my gosh, then this like starts to wash over you, like, oh, I think I have a great idea for how to, clean up the stream or whatever it might be in your area that you might be working on. So that's what I want to put out to you right now, is that if we were to accept that plants are our spiritual teachers, what would we do with that? Would you not pay any attention to plants ever again? Probably not. You'd probably run to them and say, "Oh, please, please help me to evolve spiritually, please." So that's what I'm going to suggest to you right now, is that's where this inspiration is going to come from. And that's where this knowledge is going to come from. That's where this intelligence is going to come from, to be able to make this shift on the planet right now. And we are completely capable of doing this, because if we work in this co-creative partnership with plants in this way, this is part of what we're designed for. We're not, the time of the lone wolf is over. We're here to work together. We're here to work in community. Here we all are together right here today, coming together in community to learn and to take it to the next place. And the plants are a part of our community. They have to be. We wouldn't be breathing. We wouldn't be sitting here breathing if it wasn't for them. Of course, they're part of our community. And so what are we going to do? Toss them aside? No, we're actually going to go to them and say, "Oh, thank you so much for your vast intelligence. Can you please help me with this one? I've got this going on, or this is what's happening on my landscape, or in my ecosystem, or in my ecology. This is what's going on. Whew, I could really use your guidance with this." So anyway, yes, this is what I want to suggest to you. And so I'm imagining, let's see, we end at 1:30. Okay, so we do have a little bit of time here. So I'm imagining, I can talk about this till I'm blue in the face, and I can go on for days, but we don't have that much time right now. But I would love to hear your questions. I'm imagining that you have questions. So
Me.
yes, you, I see. So that's the way to do it. Let's see. Julie just raised her hand.
My hand with
So the way you raise your hand is by the reactions. At the bottom of your screen, you'll see a little face, a little smiley face with a little plus, and it says reactions. And you click that, and somehow you raise a hand. And
the
then
very bottom one is raise hands.
Yeah, that tells us that you want to ask a question. So let's see. Lillian, can you unmute whoever, or can they unmute themselves, I guess?
You can unmute each of yourself.
So Colleen, you want to unmute yourself?
Sure. Or were you going to start with Julie?
Do you have a question, Julie?
I sure do.
Oh, okay. Well, you go for it then.
I'm not only a co-host or a host. Thank you so much. It just feels so good, everything that you're saying. I'm really intrigued by the ceremonies wondering how I can participate in one, and then getting feedback about the being ready as I'm listening. When you're ready, you will receive. And so I'm wondering what you might say to my personal distraction is I'm rather fascinated with human relationship, and it might distract me from listening to plants. And what might you suggest? If any?
Okay. Um, well, um, okay, let's start with initiations. That's what you were asking about when you used the word ceremony. You were talking about initiations. Yeah. Okay. Well, I do initiations now. Well, this year we did one in person. Well, hopefully that'll continue to be possible. And next year it's already like, yoo-hoo, it's me, is Hawthorne, all about the heart. And so that'll be in the spring of next year here in Vermont. There's other people doing initiations too. Um, let's see, you're on the West Coast, right, Julie?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm on the Olympic Peninsula in Washington.
Well, Lillian, who's here on this call, there she is, that gorgeous woman there up there waving her hand with her gorgeous long black hair. Anyway, Lillian lives in California, and she will be in the future, not too distant future. She'll be doing some plant initiations, right, Lillian? Can you tell? I'm at her back going, come on now. Lillian has studied with me for years and years and years, and she's an amazing plant spirit healing practitioner and amazing ceremonialist, and she teaches awesome classes, and she's an artist. So she's got lots of incredibly wonderful gifts and skills. So she's going to be working with me to start doing her own initiations out there, because we're trying to get initiations all over the place, and so that people can actually experience them. If you're in Europe, if you're in the UK, then Emma Farrell is doing initiations there. If you're in Australia, Carmen Abubner is doing initiations there. Let's see. There's going to be a couple more. Oh, Jen Fry, of course, she's in Pennsylvania. She does initiations. Then let's see. There's going to be a couple others on the East Coast. Diana Waller, she's in Connecticut. She will be doing initiations next year, hopefully. So anyway, so what's going to happen? So here's what's going to happen with the initiations is I'm doing a training for people who've been students of mine who are ready to step it up here and be a facilitator for a plant initiation. And so that's going to happen. And then I will put a page on my website that says who all the plant initiation facilitators are and where they're located. So does that help?
That helps. And I'm going to jump in, sorry, Colleen, and just encourage, first of all, Pam, if you want to put your contact information, website, etc., please put that in the chat so everybody can save the chat and have it. And then I would encourage anyone who wants to connect here together to put your contact information in the chat and save it with the 3 little ellipses at the bottom of the chat to the right. 3 little button dots. You can save chat. Thank you.
So Lillian, you can put in the one website and then mine, Wake Up to Nature. Okay. Okay, that's great. And so then, so knowing when you're ready, well, it happens. It just happens. Like the plants the plants like literally give you something. And so, I created this thing called Green Breath, which is a green breath journey. It's like transformational breath work is what it's like, except it's with the plants. And that's another very powerful process. And when I received the whole green breath piece from the plants, I was like, oh, wow, this is it. We've arrived. But no, after that came the plant initiations. So, but it like comes to you in these unexpected ways. Like my thing of how the plants handed me the plant initiation, I couldn't make it up even if I tried. It was being in England during the volcano, couldn't get home, no airplanes, couldn't get home. ended up going back to Ireland, which is my friend. Oh, that's who else is doing plant initiation. Sorry, I didn't mention Carol Guyette, who's the initiator of initiations. She's written a book called Sacred Plant Initiations, which I wrote the foreword to. She's in Ireland, and so anyway, she's like, I'm sorry, Carol, please forgive me for not mentioning your name first. Anyway, so I went back to Ireland. I got a boat, which there's a whole long story about how I got that boat back to Ireland. And she was preparing. She had a group of people she worked with called Plant Dreamers. She has a fabulous labyrinth, and they dream with the plants in her that grow in her labyrinth. And she's got these raised beds that plants grow in. And she was preparing. She does them on the high holy days, all the fire festivals, which is equinoxes, solstices, cross quarter days. So we got a cross quarter day coming up with Samhain, with Halloween. So anyway, that's when she does them. And she was preparing for Beltane. It was the spring, and she was preparing for Beltane on May 1st. And the hills were covered in primroses, little yellow primroses that grow wild all around there. And they're just so beautiful. And so I arrived because I couldn't get back home, but I could get to Ireland on a boat. And so so I participated with her in the harvest of the primroses, and then the making of the elixir and all that. And then when I did get a plane home, she sent me home with a little bottle of it. And I did, when they were doing the initiation there with primrose, I was doing the initiation here by myself with the elixir that we had made. And so she basically the whole initiation thing came to me because I couldn't get home because of a volcano going off in Iceland. It's like, what? Huh? And so that's how it all happened. So anyway, so the point here is when you're ready. So obviously I was ready because it just got handed to me in a way that I could never have even imagined. So that's how you'll know, is it'll come to you. Now, human relations, I don't know what kind of human relations you're referring to. I don't know how to help you with that one. Unless, you want to go with other people and hang out with plants. But I don't think you have to disregard your relations with humans, but
that was actually when I'm doing initiation in a group, or when I'm in a group, I find I'm less receptive.
Oh.
I could be wrong. So
how
do I, in group, because I love being in group.
It's so funny because I feel the opposite. I don't know how Lillian
I could be wrong. That came out at the end of my writing my question. I could be wrong. Maybe it's all nature and I'm listening to it all.
Yeah, I feel like the process is goes much deeper when there's other people in it with you. And I would have to say that, you have to hold who's ever the facilitator, and usually it's me. I've been to other initiations. I've been to Carol's initiations, and she holds a very strong container. And it's really about that. Whoever's holding the container holds it really strong. And everyone that's within that container is held within the sacredness of it. And you interact with each other in a sacred way on a kind of a different level. You're not really operating on that personality level. You're not doing the rah, rah, rah thing with people, or, if somebody annoys you, then, it's kind of like the plants, the container is held in such a way, and the plant that you're working with usually helps take you to another level because your heart's just wide open. So that's what I would say, is hold a good, strong container, and then you'll love being with all those other people because you're doing the same thing together, and you're evolving spiritually together. That's pretty powerful to do with other folks. Yeah, that's
just like meditating together. Okay, we're running out of time. Can we move to Colleen?
Yes, we can. We can move to Colleen.
Thank you so much. I take people into the Redwood Forest here in Santa Cruz, California. I've been doing that for 4 years to connect deeply with the forest beings, with the spirits of the forest. Yeah. And we invite them after a while of being together in the forest to ask for a message, and that they may receive a message in any way, whether it's words or a sound or a color or a pattern, anything. And I've received messages in different ways. And I'm really curious about how you receive messages. You were saying that plants' methods of communication, I believe, with each other are light, sound, and vibratory resonance, but not words. And so how do you receive your messages from plants?
Light and sound and vibratory resonance. Light and sound carry resonance, of course, as well. And you can receive the resonance. And I'm talking about frequency, wavelengths that have the length of the wave, the frequency of the wave, all that. But it's coming to you, and your body experiences it as a felt sensation, a sensation.
Yeah.
So it's a sensation in your body. So sensation could be, could be heat, could be tingling, could be tightness, it could be anything. And so you receive that vibratory resonance from the plant as a felt sensation in your body. And then you do what we call putting a handle on it, which is you describe it, or you just a couple words, enough so that you can remember it, not a big long paragraph, but just a few words, or a posture, or it might be a symbol. Symbol is a universal language as well. Symbols usually are. So sometimes you might receive it as a symbol. Sometimes a smell comes. That's happened to me too. And so that way you're able to, and when this begins to happen, and there's all the other things that you do to begin to build your relationship into a co-creative partnership where that plant spirit lives in your house, like I was talking about earlier. And so, and once you get to that point, then that plant comes and lives within your house. And the way I call upon that plant is with my handle. So it's kind of like dialing it up. And, so like one of my handles is like with Rose, everything is soft, 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 soft. And then you like, when you're like, oh, it's so soft. And then you're like, well, you really want to hone in. It's called focusing. You hone in. And is it soft as butter? Is it a, kind of a buttery soft? Is it silky soft? Is it velvety soft? What kind of soft is it? And you're like, okay, no, wait, this is soft as velvet. And you kind of bounce that back and forth with the plant. Soft as velvet? Yeah. Soft as velvet? Are you sure? Soft as velvet? Yeah. Like you get the ping in your heart? Yeah. And so that's what I do. Now, it doesn't mean that there aren't going to be words, because you're putting a handle on it, so you're usually you're using words to put a handle on it, but the words are not the resonance. The resonance is from the light and the sound that carries a vibratory resonance. So, and this, I get the light and sound, that's the foundational way that communication takes place in the biological world. And that's not Pam's new agey idea. That is in the science. Light and sound. We see in the narrow band of color. That's what we see. That's how we experience light. There's other ends of the spectrum of light. We can't see them, but that doesn't mean they don't exist. Same with sound. And here's the clincher here, is at the nucleus of the cell of all living organisms, us, plants, animals, all living organisms. At the nucleus of the cell, which is the DNA level, there are biophotons and biophonons, light and sound particles. So then the work of, I'm going to add this one little piece, and I know time's getting on here. The work of Fritz Popp, P-O-P-P, Fritz Popp, a German biophysicist, discovered biophotons at the nucleus of the cell. He's giving biophotons from a plant to people with unhealthy cells, like cancer cells. We're talking big time stuff, like cancer cells, because the light at the nucleus of the cell, he says, has gone awry, which means the light is not in a healthy pattern. So he's giving the light, biophotons from plants, to people to re-inform. Those are his words, re-inform the light. Whew.
Ooh.
That's leading edge to me.
Oh, yeah.
And these are plants that are doing this. So light and sound. Yeah. Did that answer your question, I hope?
It does. It does.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
All right. Okay, everybody. So hopefully you found in the chat how you can reach me, and you can connect in with others, and you can continue on with this lovely summit that we're having here. Well, I believe our time is up, and there's going to be some more great stuff coming. So thank you so much for being here today. And I hope this touched you in some way. And please get out there and be with the plants and be in nature and just be in deep gratitude, because that's one of the big positive impulses to the heart, is deep, deep gratitude, and being so grateful for these plants that are giving us our life and helping us to evolve spiritually to the point where we raise our consciousness to the point where we can do this lovely repair on the planet.